Thank you. I'm very happy to be invited here and talk about Lebenshilfe Pforzheim. I've got a schedule here. These are the most important points. Is this better? Okay. The most important point for me is on the one lower hand. The approach, practical examples, and the dialogue concerning living is for me important. I will talk about concrete examples, how to show how Lebenshilfe Pforzheim works. How do we approach living? But there are several other points I want to address, like living quality. That is very important for living, and I want to take you along with that. And it says dialogue, and that's important as well. We can go into detail, and I can answer questions, because living is very individual, and it's for everyone it's different. I'll talk about me a bit more later and about Lebenshilfe Pforzheim. So this is the agenda. This is the agenda, which I prepared. Let me introduce myself, and I'll talk about Lebenshilfe Pforzheim, and I'll talk about housing, and answer a few questions. For example, who is the expert concerning housing? I would like to talk about that with you. And I would like to talk about the Federal Participation Act, which is important in Germany. In other countries, there may be different laws. And I'll talk about the housing options we offer. I've got two examples which might be interesting. And towards the end, I want to do maybe an appeal to concerning housing, and I'll answer questions. This is me, Tilman Busse. I'm 50 years old. I'm married and I have 4 children, all boys. And concerning
Der Zweitälteste, der wohnt nicht mehr zu Hause, der ist letztes Jahr ausgezogen. So für mein Empfinden war das eigentlich zu früh. Also da war er gerade 18 und das werde ich nachher auch nochmal so mit einbringen. Wann ist denn eigentlich die Zeit die richtige, wann man zu Hause auszieht? Ich habe ursprünglich mal als Heilerziehungspfleger gelernt. Das ist der klassische Ausbildungsberuf im Bereich der Eingliederungshilfe.
And I did studies in social work and clinical social work. And I'm now working for 30 years in the integration assistance in living areas, group services, and later in management. And I have a hobby. I'm an honorary judge at the Karlsruhe Social Court. That's very different. it's social justice. I approach that from a different side. Lebenshilfe Pforzheim Enzkreis has been working over 60 years in this region. We work in different areas, like vocational training, in work, like also in job coaching and workshops. But also in housing, we are active with outpatient housing or residential buildings, stationary living, we call that. And we offer daily structure, supporting care. Even for senior citizens, we have senior citizens in our houses. We also work in kindergartens and after-school care. We also have help for leisure and holiday travel, and we also give advice. We have around 1,000 customers with impairments, and we have a few hundred staff. I would like to go into the topic of housing, the theoretical framework. I want to go into the basic needs, but I'll try and keep it simple. And I'd like to enter quality criteria, which criteria are important. And like I said, who is the expert concerning housing? Who knows what's important for me concerning housing? I'll go into that later. Let me start with the quotation. You can see it on our homepage as well. Sufficient living space and good quality of life are among the basic human needs and are a prerequisite for individual and an individual and self-determined lifestyle. It's important to go into the needs and also the individual and self-determination aspects. Those are very important concerning housing. Talking about basic needs, I want to go into the Maslow need pyramid. There are basic needs, like physical needs, elementary things, eating, drinking, or enough sleep. There are safety needs, security needs. I'll go into that later, so I'll skip that. There are social needs, ego needs. Let me see. Ego need is trust in myself and believing in my success. And lastly, there is, on the top of the pyramid, is self-realization, finding sense in life and striving for more. I'll go into these two aspects, social needs and security needs. I'll go into them more. I think they're important concerning housing. I think they're elementary. The security needs for me are a feeling of security, a freedom from fear, structure. Anyone can judge what they want. When I feel well in my home and feel safe, I get a structure. That structure gives me stability and a certain framework. And in this framework, I can live without fear and exist without fear. That's an important need, the need for security. It's especially important concerning housing. Next, we have the social needs. These are a few examples. Important are social contacts and affiliation. With whom do I interact? With whom do I have friendships or partnerships? And how am I placed in the neighborhood? Anything which is important for us in our daily life, in our housing biography, are also important in this context. Maslow, in his pyramid, he made his pyramid, and we also have Theo Klaus. He talks about quality criteria concerning housing. These are a few, this is abbreviated. Your house should be a safe place. So it's about well-being. I should have privacy. I must be able to retreat, to feel well. Based on that, I can get into contacts and communicate with others. Communication is enabled. And when it concerns housing, I should also feel identification through individual design. I have to create a home that I like. In this framework, I can find places in a community. I can go out and get into contact with people outside my home. And that's very important for self-determination. These are a few aspects from the need pyramid. This is a visual aid. These are important themes concerning housing. I've already mentioned them: self-determination, social contact, stability, security. And now the question is, who is the expert? I would say that every person has to judge: when do I feel well? When do I feel self-determination? When can I get into social contacts? You can do that yourself. But who decides about contacts that I can engage in? Who knows best when I feel good? That's usually yourself. You yourself determine that. But who defines which quality criteria are particularly important? You are an expert concerning yourself, and the experts are here in the audience. You know what your ideas are, and you know what you want for your family, for your kids. That's very important. The expert opinion and I mean people like me or representatives of organizations, they are theoretical experts. They have offerings, but the concrete experts, the subjective experts, are the people here in the audience. Your opinion is important. And you decide together with the people around you. Another quotation. A sense of quality of life cannot simply be created in another person. We can create objective frameworks. That's what we should try to create. But whether that creates a true quality of life is not that's not always the case. Let me go into the German situation. That's why it says framework conditions in the BTHG era, which is the Independent Partition Counseling, and it's based on the UNCRPDP, and that's we go into Article 19 of the Human Rights Convention, and that is incorporated in the Federal Participation Act. It's about assisted living within the community. You should have the same choices as other people. Inclusion in or participation in the community. And the possibility to choose your own place of residence or to choose the people you want to live with. Those are all in the Human Convention of Human Rights, in the United Nations Convention of Human Rights. Nobody who needs help should be obliged to live in special forms of housing. But the reality in Germany, and it's only for Germany, I can talk only for Germany, is this. We have special forms of living. They were called stationäre. I don't know the situation, how the situation looks in other countries. The German Institute for Human Rights has the demand that anyone must be able to have self-determined living and should be able to have an expansion of outpatient housing options. Half of the people with an impairment live in special forms of housing, and I mean people with intellectual disabilities. So 65% of people with intellectual disabilities live in special forms of housing. That's the legal framework, and it's about quality, which plays a role in housing. Now let me be a bit more concrete for Lebenshilfe Pforzheim. We have around 240 places in the residential sector. More in the special forms of housing, in stationary, and that's 170 places for inpatient housing and 70 for outpatient. In the framework of these residential offerings, we have integration support in a broad spectrum. In some housing area arenas, we offer 24 hours a day assistance, and for other people, it's only a few hours per week. It depends on the need for assistance. People live in different configurations. Some are in residential groups of a maximum of 8 people, but there are smaller units, smaller residential groups with only 3 people. And in the outpatient sectors, people can have their own apartment where they live alone or in a residential group of only 2. We offer 7 locations here in Pforzheim. They are very different. We have homes which are not without barriers because they have stairs. Other homes are fully accessible with everything on the ground floor. And we offer housing for adults from 20 to 80, I say. So anyone who is adult can move in, and they can stay until their death. Supported living options for outpatients. We also have different locations for that. So people can rent their own homes, and then we will visit people to help them, to give them assistance. Let me go into 2 housing options for Lebenshilfe. When you have questions, I can go into them right away. These are 2 models of housing that are special even here. So if you have any questions, we can answer them right away. We have an inclusive shared living arrangements. We've had that for a few years, and that's people with and without support needs living together. This is a residential group with 5 places in total in a regular home. There are 3 people without and 2 people with a support need in this group. I think that's a normal living group, like you see everywhere. The people do everything together, like cleaning the kitchen or the home. But 2 people with trisomy 21 have a support need. They have individual needs. And the 3 other people in the group will help them. This form of living can be challenging because there's a need for close communication with all involved parties. There are 5 people living together. You have family members in the background. And of course, there is also the benefits agency. The benefits agency finances the assistance and the housing. Another challenge can be that the benefits agency recognizes the need for assistance. One person with an assistance need can be scared at night, especially during storms. At that point, she needs assistance. Assistance givers have to come in to help the woman relax. That can be at night. This individual support need is indicated towards the benefits agency, and the agency has to recognize that need. Another challenge is the people without an assistance need. Some move out, and there is a place free in the group, and it's not easy to find a new housemate. If you have questions about this form of residence, you can ask that now. It's a super model in theory, but in Switzerland we only have this model in only 2 places, in Basel and Bern. A friend of mine has done that in Basel, but it doesn't work in practice. Sorry to say that. My question is, what do the people without an assistance need, what do they get? Do they get money, or do they live for free? They have to get something, because otherwise no one would like to get up at night to give assistance. The 3 people without assistance need work for us. And they're paid with what we get from the benefits agency. So if the benefits agency pays for 5 hours of assistance, those 3 people are paid that amount of money because they give assistance. And that's how these people finance a part of their rent. I would like to go on to the next example. So if you have any questions. The previous model has been in working for a few years, the inclusive residential group. And this group I call the Women's Shared Apartment. That's a new development. We started out with 2 friends. They knew each other from school, wanted to live in a shared apartment. The home was provided through one of the families. It was a home that came free, and the family said we can start this project there. I would call this a normal residential group home. The support needs of both women are met individually. And there are shared tasks that are completed by the two ladies or with guidance. The difference is that these women live together alone without supporting people living there. Our staff visit the home every day for several hours, but they don't stay for the night. There are challenges. For example, concerning the recognition by the benefits agency. The women have a fairly big assistance need. That's why the family is still involved. Is often involved in the care, but we anticipate that they slowly will withdraw. That is the intention. For us, there is a logistic challenge. For sometimes two staff people have to go to the group to deliver the individual support needs. So we need many people for this group. And for me, this group only functions within this configuration. These women have known each other for a long time, and the families are mutual acquaintances as well. For a long time they've been so. So it's just not it's not a regular occurrence that this could work. Initially, like I said, one of the questions is, last year my second child moved out too early, and then the question is, what is the right time to move out? When do you move away from home? But there are more aspects. There are every housing model is individual, and models vary. And the need for support per person can be very different, and it can change over time. People don't move in one home and stay there for the rest of their lives. There are changes in their life. You become more individual and move to another form of living, housing. All your support needs grow, which leads to change and a need to move. Like I said before, it's important to incorporate the ideas and wishes of people, and these are also very different. There is no standard. the question, when do you move out? In our situation, some people move in at 18 or 19. That can be the right time, but sometimes it's clearly too early. The last impaired woman who moved in with us 2 days ago, she is in her early 60s, and that's relatively late. In that configuration, there is no, she didn't move because the family wanted her to move because they were unable to continue her support. The mother became sick. That's the question. What is the right time to move? And how about your own family? When I move out of my home to live on my own, how do I keep into contact with my family? That's also an important question. The benefits agency also plays a role. They pay everything. And in the future, there will probably be the question, what can they offer? What needs do people have, and which form of housing is best? That leads me to the outlook. I would even call it an appeal. These are a few things I've put together based on my experiences from the last 20, 30 years. It is important that the benefits agency that is responsible for you or your dependents knows your situation. It is important to get the right information. Inform yourself. The Convention for Impaired People is not just for Germany, but for the whole world. I would like to know how this law, the UN CRPD, is implemented in your region or country. What can you expect? Again, I'm talking about special form of housing. It's not so that these are available in every country or in every county in Germany. In some areas there are a lot more outpatient homes. I and my colleagues like to tell people what we can offer, and we ask people to listen to us. We want to show them residential groups and even offer them to test living there for a few days. It is important to experience for you as family, and that you as family experience how your child does in a residential group. And that the people experience themselves how living in a residential group is. They have to experience that. And it can also be valuable to know, no, this is not the right way for us. It is important to examine your own ideas. How do I want to live? I have to determine that for myself, and I can do that. You can also do that. You probably have had a few configurations in your own life, and you should also have an idea of how your kids should live in the future, their living home situation. And what are the limits? What is the support need? How do I or how do we deal with them? Sometimes your great need for support can impair the moving out of a home. These are important aspects. I mentioned them before. It's about home quality, living quality. These are points like self-determination, security, individuality, and even social contacts. Those are important aspects which you should take into account for the bigger picture. This would be a room for questions from the plenum. But I've got this phrase. After watching this presentation of mine, I thought it should not be too negative. The special housing, forms of housing, I want to be positive about those. There are people who love to live in a special form of housing. And it's important that we maintain, that we are still able to offer those. At the moment, we have 170 places in special forms of housing. If we would make all of them outpatients, that would create a problem on the housing market. We need a good mix. Many different models of homes. So every individual with their individual needs can find the right form of housing. This is the time for questions. Hello. I've got a question concerning theory and reality. We've battled long to find a place, a home for our daughter. And parents always wants to know when I die, I want my daughter to be in a good situation. You are from Enskreis, like I am. There is a job which is well paid, and wonder, I wonder what you are doing. I would like you to go into that. How big the need is that parents have. We can formulate it, but we can't translate it to concrete help. We always find obstacles on the way when we try and find a solution. Thank you for your remark. That's a painful point concerning the social plan. Social planning is the responsibility of the benefit agency. We are sometimes surprised how superficial, my personal meaning, how superficial this is done. We see that when we get a request for vocational training, for example. All of a sudden, we find that people who are 18, 19 and are impaired, and they're new to us. Those were people who'd been around for 20 years, but all of a sudden for us, they come into existence. So then it's difficult to find a good social plan for them. But that's why I think we have to go to the benefits agencies more to tell them about what the special needs are. That's a question for us. And it should be taken into account by us and by other agencies. You talked about a form of housing with 3 regular people and 2 impaired people. What's your experience? Do you find enough people who are prepared to give the assistance needed? It's difficult. When we started with that group, there was a spirit of conviction. But that was 10 years ago. Ever since, there have been a number of changes. The people who live there now, it's a good group. They've been there for a few years. But it's getting more difficult. We now have 1 open spot. And there's a limited number of people who apply. You say that in other Bundesländer there's more examples. Are you visiting them to see how that works there? There are living groups in student cities where they have more groups like this because they have people who are more open to this, more than in Pforzheim. People who are prepared to live in a group like that. Do you check those people? Do you check whether they do the work, or is that a stupid question? They are staff people of our Lebenshilfe, and there is a hierarchy. So we check whether they do everything. Yeah, because people who have needs cannot always vocalize their own needs. There are regular team meetings, and there is meetings with managers. Thank you.
So I think in the Netherlands that might be a good side note. Do you need translation or? So from the Netherlands is a good side note. I work in nursing homes as well. But we have another type of nursing home. So we have patients starting at 4 to 12, depending on the size of the home. They get
Okay, because I was. Can you repeat, please? Because. Or do you want to speak in Dutch?
what do you want? I don't mind. In Dutch might be easier.
Okay, then in Dutch, is it okay? Yep. So.
Oh dear, here we go. In the Netherlands, we have different living groups with 4 or maximum 8 people. It depends on the home. We have a very different situation.
De ochtendroutines en dan gaan de bewoners naar dagbesteding toe. En dan na dagbesteding komen ze weer terug naar het wonen en dan zijn de woonbegeleiders daar weer. Ik vroeg me eigenlijk überhaupt af of dat iets was wat ze hier in Duitsland kenden.
Ja, haben wir auch. Also es gibt von 0 bis 24 Stunden letzten Endes, aber es gibt auch genau solche Modelle. Morgens ist jemand für 3 Stunden im Haus und tagsüber sind alle weg und dann am Nachmittag bis zum Abend. Ja.
Gegeben den Fall, man möchte, oder gegeben den Fall,
Given the case that you have your own home that you can offer for your own child, and maybe you have a few friends who can move in with your child, if you want to choose yourself who will give the assistance, but you need help with organizing the whole situation and with organizing the assistance. Does Lebenshilfe offer that? Do you have ideas about the support you can give? For example, legal advice, or with the there are different variants. There is the personal budget. That's an option. In our region, this seldom happens. The personal budget makes you the employer, and you find your own staff people. The biggest hurdle is the volume. How much budget do I have, and is it enough? In our case, of the work group of those 2 young ladies, the family turned to the benefits agency, and they approached us to help create the living group, to create a good social plan and to help with staff. I'm Dutch. We are Dutch. In the Netherlands, you have different forms, as Toon said. Do you have parents in Germany who assemble to create a bigger form of a residential group where they ask a organization like yours to offer the care need, to cover the care needs? Lebenshilfe Pforzheim, we don't have that. But it's possible in the framework of an outpatient assistance, because then it's not important how a residential group is created. It could be parents with their children. Then you can combine things. For example, you can combine money from the benefits agency and from the healthcare insurer. It's thinkable. It could be done. Thank you. In the Netherlands, there is a housing crisis. Our children with impairments are also affected. And there is a limited number of people who still want to work in healthcare. And looking at Teun, I wonder that even in the Netherlands, even their situation is very regional. Both challenges, like the home market and staffing problems, are also we are also affected immensely by that. We have to. It's a very long-term problem. Recognize that. Because 8 years ago, together with different other parents, we tried to start a parent initiative. And after 8 years, we think that Esme will find a home with friends. Finally. It was a very long road. And in 2028, the new home will be built and she will move in there with 12 other friends. We understand that it's very difficult for a bigger organization like yours, and I wanted to tell people who are concerning home and housing problems that it is very good to start early, start thinking early. Don't wait until your child is 20 plus. And I wish you the best of luck in realizing everything within 10 years. When there are no more questions, we would like to thank you. I hope, there we are, your contact, and I hope we can invite you another time, maybe in 2 years. I would like that very much.